I get a message one day and it says like your order from 5 Star is shipped, and I'm like, I haven't ordered anything. And then like I think it said like champion banner, and so then I'm like, okay. And a couple days later it showed up, and I'm like, man, that is awesome. I don't know if they had it hung up at their warehouse or wherever or what, but yeah, no, I was I was pretty excited when I got that. Thing's huge. So
It's like one of the few not black super late models out there.
yeah, I was gonna tell you, you got
Me
in
and
my
Dennis
opinion,
Chase, man, we're the 3 blue amigos.
yeah, I was gonna tell you, you got the second best looking super late. Well, first best this year since I didn't have mine out there, but no, I have there's not many blue super late models out there, and actually there's one photo that pops up all the time, and like my friends will send it to me, and like, oh, I just love this photo, and it's the only year I ran at Milwaukee Mile was 2022, and we're doing the 4 wide salute, and like to me, like the 2 cars that stick out the most were like mine, and then I think like you were like right behind me, and like I had the white hood at the time. It just pops out, and you got the blue and the white, and it's just like a lot of black out there, black cars out there.
It's good for the spotters. They can find us easy enough.
Yeah. No, there's definitely not a lot of blue ones out there at all. No. How did you get the number 80?
Okay, this is a story. It doesn't really involve me all that much. So my involvement in racing, I had no direct family that raced. I had no direct family that knew anybody that raced. It was entirely watching on, as Tom Cruise said, ESPN. You'd be surprised what you pick up, right? And so my family was race fans. My uncle liked Dale Earnhardt, so I'd, as a kid, follow along with everything. It was like awesome. You had everything on ESPN. You had it all on, TNN back then. And
yeah,
it's fun to think about how exciting it was to watch racing as a kid then, and how, not knowing anybody, I just loved it, And my uncle in 2001 got a chance to crew for a NASCAR team at Daytona. And so they were involved with a guy named Stan Hoover, who I don't know at all, but I remember the name, and he had a lot of cars that were number 80. So this was, at the time, I was in 7th grade. So my uncle's on this NASCAR team. This is amazing, and we're watching, and they end up missing the race. They had a radio problem. Morgan Shepherd was actually driving the car. It was Bill Elliott's 2000 Ford Taurus that they ran at Daytona. Okay. They bought that car. They get it. It's fast enough, and that was the year Earnhardt got killed, but it was the year with the Wicker, and everybody had a chance. It was just chaos in the race.
Okay.
So they were in the mix, and they ended up not making it in the 125, so that was a bummer, right? And the next year they came back and tried it again, and I believe it was the same car, but they had Kirk Shelmerdine was driving the car, and it was number 80 with Hooters on it. Really obscure NASCAR. If you're into that, like, old NASCAR weird things that pop up you forgot existed ever, that's one of them. So when you go in my shop, there's an autographed picture of the Morgan Shepherd car, number 80, and when I started racing in 2018, I had to pick a number, and I couldn't think of anything. I had nothing that stood out, and I ended up going with 80 because of that.
Okay.
So because of a NASCAR race randomly back in 2001, that's where that came from. So, and that team dissolved after that and didn't really do a whole lot, but that's all it took. So I remember the number 80, and that's kind of where I based it off of.
Yeah. No, it's cool to see where people get it from. Mine's not quite as exciting. Just no, that was my uncle's number, and
yep.
But actually, I wanted my grandpa's. Someone else had that number in go-karts. Couldn't have 88, so then I was a Jeff Gordon fan. Couldn't have that because someone else had it, so couldn't take 24. So I was like, well, I'll take 87, and no one else had that, and
I always assumed like being in the same age group, that was the year you were born, but maybe I'm right or wrong on that. I don't know.
No,
but I think I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, it would be 90. It would be 94 if.
Oh wow!
Yeah, sorry to throw that out there.
Damn, just shut this off. We're done.
Well, at least I didn't say like 2004.
Oh man, it's so weird when you meet people that are adults that are born after 2000. Like, what the hell?
Well, actually, the weird thing is when you go to like a bar or you go to a gas station, and it's like you must have been born on this day or after to like purchase alcohol, and it's like, oh, it says 2000 something now. Like, wow, like that stings a little bit. Yeah.
Goes fast. Every old guy will tell you it goes fast, and every old guy is right.
Yeah.
And soon I will be too.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to say the same thing about parenthood. The one thing no one's ever lied to me in my life about is how fast kids grow up, and it's like, wow, my kids are 4 and almost 6. Like, what happened?
I can relate. So you got 2 of them. I got 3 now.
Okay.
And we're 9, 6, and 2, and it's almost panicky how fast it goes. Like there's not enough time in the day to enjoy everything, and having hobbies like this doesn't help slow down the moment and be able to have a lot of free time for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Do they ever, my kids are to the point now where it's like they can, they want to contribute in certain things and they want to help. Do any of the kids give a hand on things or?
Yeah, Jack, he was good at putting Matchbox cars in the spindle snouts, so you got to watch that. I think one of them went for a ride with me one time. But Ingrid, every now and then, she'll come out there and help me out. I don't push him to help a lot. I don't want him to feel like it's a work thing. Like, hey, come on here, you got to help me out in the car.
Yeah.
But then again, some days they're just out there rolling tires around trying to do anything, and other days they're like, I'm gonna go play catch and do whatever. So
yeah,
but it's fun when they do. Jack likes coming to the track quite a bit.
Okay,
he gets into that, and all the crew guys love having him running around. At least I think they do. Probably drives them nuts sometimes, but
yeah.
It's fun going to the races with your kids, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. And speaking of kids, so when you were a kid, before you got into anything racing, what were you interested in? What were you doing?
What was I doing? Any of these podcasts I've done, I not come across racing in person, so I was always a fan, right? I was always going to be a fan. But, I mean, that goes back to before. I probably, my earliest memories were the intro to TNN NASCAR, Bill Dance being on before that. And I say Bill Dance because I can remember that song, and for a while there, it was like, I got to wait for this fishing show to be done before NASCAR starts, right? Then as I got older, I started really like fishing, and as a teenager, I would fish and fish and fish. And one of the places I would go, there's a public pier in East Troy off of Potter's Lake, and I'd be down there fishing, and all of a sudden there's a race car across the street. And I'm like, well, what's that guy? When did this happen? And so I'd be fishing that he's welding after a wreck, and then come back another week and he's putting a body panel on or whatever. I don't know. He's just up there working. And finally, for me, I didn't want to look like an idiot because I was so nervous to talk to anybody about it because I loved racing so much. And I put the fishing pole down, walked over there across the street, and that was probably I joke it's the worst financial mistake of my life. I didn't know it at the time. But
who was it?
So it was Adam Berge. Berge had a shop. So his kids have been racing Braden and Tanner the last few years. Tanner won the championship in the 602, and Braden won. I don't think he won the modified championship at the Dells, but probably should have. He was right there if he had run all year and won a bunch of races and then moved on up through the ranks and had been pretty competitive on and off in the super late. And right now they're taking some time off at the moment. But yeah, so Adam, I was like, do you need help? And like I knew so little. I didn't even know how to use a rivet gun. I was that naive. And so learned talking with him and helping him and going to Lake Geneva Raceway, having like just the time of my life hanging onto that car, watching it come around the corner and hoping for the best, and had some good runs there and never really, I don't think I'll ever be as excited as I was seeing the first car I ever worked on go around the track. Even my own, like that was just so exciting to be involved because I had no direct interaction at all. So
yeah, when racing is that new of a thing to you and you're just starting to go to racetrack and helping out and going to the pits, I imagine exciting as can be.
Listening to some of your other podcasts, Huber had said something about the smell of the race gas. And I can actually remember the first time coming back to the shop a few times, the smell of the 5-star window cleaner. Like just like that smell is like one of those early memories of racing. And,
sure.
And then obviously the fuel and all that. But yeah, probably the most fun you'll ever have in your life when I think back on that, being a crew guy for those years. And then later on, he had James Swan start driving that car, and we ended up winning a championship or 2 or 3 in a row in the Mid-Am series. That was a Mid-Am car, by the way.
Okay.
The whole time. And yeah, just time of your life as a young kid, just starting college at that time. So from like 2003 being in high school to 2010 being in college, it was just unbelievable. So pretty cool thing to be a part of at the time.
Yeah, I was being from that area. I was going to ask if you had gone to Lake Geneva, and that's I've never, obviously no one races there anymore, but it looked like a really cool track. I always hear a lot of people really, really liked it.
I remember being 2 different, completely different corners, and I always think tracks like that are pretty neat where you can't quite get it ever perfect all the way.
Yeah, you got a little compromise.
Adam let me drive his car in a practice time there once. They'd have Wednesday night open practices, and he let me drive it, and I was doing the thing where I'd go in really easy, right? And then I just floor the gas, and finally got to the point where I spun it out, and first time I ever spun a race car out was a Mid-Am car there, but we got going pretty quick, and he's kind of like, well, I think you probably could do this if you really want to, you know. Driving wise, you might be all right. The rest is all up in the air, but so that was my first time in a race car, was at Lake Geneva Raceway, but I never got to race there, just that one time practice race there. So, but had a lot of fun there, that's for sure.
And then that was the first race car you ever got into?
That was the first one. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then did that really put the hooks in? And
yeah, well, I think they were pretty in at that point anyway. The first car I ever actually raced was my own, and Seth Luton's was a connection there. So you go back to, like, how did you really get into driving? So they came out with NASCAR 98 back in, obviously 98 EA Sports, whatever. And I played that game till it was like junk. Just done, wore it out, and
like on the PC,
on the PS1, and then the PC games came later, because I didn't have a computer till probably 2001. Well, then it was NASCAR 4 and 2002. We're all old guys now that remember this, but there was a time it was like that was what all the young guys were doing that loved racing, is those NASCAR games, and so just played that like crazy. Got to know Seth in like a Wisconsin racing league. I can't remember what it was called, but it was all like remodeled. Jefferson Speedway was on there, Madison, Lacrosse, and we'd run like the super late model mod. And so Seth and I got to talking, and one day he's like, hey, I know a guy that's got a car. I'm like, what do you mean? I know a lot of people with cars. What do you mean? And he's like, well, he's got a wrecked street stock from Lake Geneva, and they're running them at Slinger now that Lake Geneva closed. This is like 2007. He says, you can drive it if you fix it. Well, the problem was it was in Racine. I lived in East Troy, and I was going to school in Milwaukee and didn't have a car. So I'd go to school all week. I'd get a ride. I'd either ride the bus back to New Berlin to catch a ride.
You did not have a personal car?
No, I didn't. Well, I did have at the time it was, that was I had a 1993 S10 that I was driving around.
Okay.
That thing was sweet, man. I miss that thing. But I didn't have a personal car in Milwaukee.
Okay.
So I'd get on the bus on Friday, go back to New Berlin, either catch a ride to East Troy with my grandpa or my dad, get my car, then I'd drive to Racine, work on it, come back home, work on it again, come back home, work on it again, and then go back to school. And it took a while, and you kind of have this moment. Any crew guy that's gone from just a crew guy to a racer probably has a moment where they go, I do not know what I'm doing here. I assume it's the same for everybody, because how would you know, you know?
Yeah.
You watch these guys set them up. I'd watch James set up the car. I'd watch Adam do it. But that quiet shop where it's just you and it's like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But you keep chipping away at it, and then you get a little help here and there, and next thing you know, you got a race car. And we went to Slinger for the opener, and ran pretty well, if I remember right, the first time. And then the second time, we led most of the race and almost won the feature my second time in a car.
Okay. And
I remember vividly that we hit oil. I was leading the race, and somebody had blown up in the back, and we hit oil. And just sliding through 3 and 4 sideways, and I saved it. I'm like, oh, those video games work great, man. It was just like it. To me, it was almost easier than the racing against good guys online, driving that street stock. And I know people maybe would be like, really? You think so? I'm like, no, it was just like it, man. Everything was the reactions to being sideways, everything was right there. And after that, it was like, all right, I'm definitely going to keep doing this. So.
Was that going to Slinger for, your first car, was that an intimidating place to go to? Or, because I didn't visit Slinger. I hadn't raced at Slinger until this year in the Midwest Truck Series for my first time, sadly, but I hadn't seen that place since I think the first time was maybe 2010, 2011. And it was wild different from anything I've been on. I don't think I was really ever intimidated. So I had driven one other car at Rockford. Seth let me drive his street stock, same type of car at Rockford. And so you started at all the easy tracks.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, it was like I've never felt intimidated probably ever in the car. It just, I had run so many laps in simulators before I ever got in an actual car that it just felt normal. It was like completely at home.
Okay.
So, I honestly, after first practice, I was like, this thing's too tight. Let's check the toe. The toe was 1 inch. See, back to I didn't know what I was doing. We fixed that. The car was a lot better. And then, what's the next thing? And it just onward and upward from there. So.
Yeah, that's now, when you were talking doing simulator before you ever got in there, was it all still like the older NASCAR stuff, or was any of it iRacing at all?
So iRacing came around 2007.
Yeah, because I think I got it in 2010 or something, maybe.
I remember being on the the dev version or whatever, being able to race it a little bit, and it's all kind of blurry now. But that was about 07 to 2010 where that kind of picked up. By 2010, I think it was already pretty established. And so it was all pre-iRacing, but iRacing came off of those games that we were playing on the PC at that time.
Yeah.
Same developers. So it's weird to say, but I mean, if you're really good on a computer, there's no reason you can't drive a real race car. And it's not even so much that you have the skill. I think if you are that into it, that you work that hard to get good at a video game like that, you've probably just got the right mindset and hand-eye coordination in general to do it.
Sure.
And
if
you're willing to work that hard, even at a game, you're probably of the right mindset to go racing and deal with the bull crap that can happen in that.
Sure.
So
no, that's really interesting to hear. Yeah, I've never really like anyone that had maybe been like, that heavy into, that simulator side of it and then transition to racing. I've really never talked to anybody about that. So that's interesting to.
And I didn't jump right to super lights either. So the street stock was totally manageable, right?
Sure.
For me, it was okay. I know
you didn't feel out of control.
Yeah. I was able to be aggressive pretty much the first few races, and it just felt really at home. But a lot of the guys that maybe jump in a limited or a super right away, that might have been a little different story, having that much power and that many variables going on. Probably wouldn't be a big fan of having my kid just jump into the super right away. Just to start here a little lower power, move your way up, and be able to use your mirrors and stuff like that. So,
yeah, no, that is really interesting. So then, how long did you spend in that car then?
So that was 2008 till 2010. So going back on, I'll backtrack a little bit here to that comment. I remember being a kid, so I had met Adam, and I remember I made like a list of things I had to do to be a race car driver, which is really odd, right? It's like I have to meet somebody that will let me crew for him, right? And then I got to learn how to do it. And then I'm going to have to get a junky car and build it on my own. And then I'm going to have to find some sponsors and on down the line. And I made this list, and I don't remember how far the list went. I don't think it went all the way to Daytona or anything like that, but it was like by 2010, I had actually gotten half the list knocked out. And I was actually like, thinking this is what I needed to do. So I went and talked to Adam, got to know people, stayed active on the video games. And as I had made a circle of people, all of a sudden they're opening up opportunities for me. And there we were, 2010, we had a thing going. And I had made enough friends that, back to Adam Berge, he knew a guy by the name of Dan Church. And so they were all friends, James and Dan, and Dan had multiple Mid-Am cars, but didn't have a ton of help at the time. But he was busy with his businesses, and that's how racing goes. If you're really good financially, a lot of times you can't work on race cars because your life is sucked into that, right?
Yeah. And
a lot of times the race car people are sucked into the race car, so they're struggling financially, right? So I was here, Dan was probably here, and
nice
so I was just
you.
out of college, and Adam, I think, was the one that kind of spearheaded. He's like, hey, you should have Ryan help out with your cars, and if you let him drive, you'll have plenty of crew now, and you can just enjoy racing and being competitive because, we'll tell them what to do. They've learned from us. And at the time, so I still got my crew chief, Justin, was on that team, and so was Jordan Navoy. So Jordan was helping me on and off when he wasn't helping James Swan. And so we all went over there, and Dan's program picked up right away. He started winning Mid-Am races, and that was how I got to the next thing. Okay. So now I'm driving for a guy. So I was in the Mid-Am, or the street stock for 3 years, and turned that into, we went to Mid-Ams in 2011. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then did you end up, accumulate, how did Mid-Am go for you?
Mid-Am was awesome. I'd have won a ton of races if it wasn't for James Swan. I think I finished second to him like 10 or 12 times, man.
Okay, that's who I was
chasing nonstop. We were pretty good right out of the box. I think we finished second in points. Not that anybody really remembers all that detail, right? You remember as a driver, but
right.
But we were always just chasing James. We maybe get him on qualifying or whatever, but you're always trying to get away if you were in the front from him or run him down if you were behind him. And great guy to try to chase because, heck of a driver there.
Yeah.
Probably underrated even, because everybody watches the super light stuff all the time, but there's some really good drivers in the lower divisions that didn't, in one season or another don't have the resources to run a super light. Those aren't necessarily the best drivers out there. They might be in the lower divisions, and being able to chase James in a Mid-Am car, there's not anybody else. I guess Ty Majeski's probably up there on the list of guys like, how are we ever going to beat this guy?
Yeah.
but chasing James for that long in his probably best car that he is known for, made it so that I was up
that's
for the
really where I
challenge.
first knew him from. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're up to the challenge for that, you can probably compete with anybody. So Mid-Am went from 2011 till 2013-ish, and at that point, Dan wanted to go late model racing, so we got some limited late models, and now we're doing that. So now I'm already up to limited lates. This is awesome. So
Yeah.
So everything was going good there. 2013 was, though, I'll say it was the first year, because I had been successful and won in everything right out of the box, right? And at some point, at least for me, you started getting beat by guys that you felt like you could outdrive. And it doesn't matter who it is. You're just like, why is that guy beating me? I've kicked his butt. All of a sudden, that guy's way faster than me. What the hell? And so you realize this isn't just about driving. There's a lot of setup to this, and you start looking at that. And had it not been for the getting beat there, you don't get better. And now I got to figure out how to get my cars handling better. So that's where I really started getting into the setup side, at least taking the first steps of that. And so 2013 was a learning year. We did win a race our first year out in the limiteds. That was great. And then 2014, we decided we were just going to go right to supers, which probably wasn't the greatest of ideas, but Dan was going to run full-time as a limited, and it was hard to run two cars simultaneously with the team we had. It was always just kind of tough to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we want to go super late racing anyway, so let's just try that. And it wasn't too bad. We actually almost won the Tundra race there. I missed Mikey Bilderback got me by 2 inches coming to the line. Otherwise, we would have won our first year out. But so 2014, we got through that. And 2015, we had run. I was running some of the Tundra stuff, and Dan was running Slinger. But things kind of got tight financially after that, so we kind of had to dissolve the team there.
Okay.
And so I essentially didn't have a ride at that point. Didn't really have a plan, like where we're going to go. And I was just lucky to be even in racing. Like I said, going from not knowing anybody to being able to
getting the opportunity to race for someone. Yeah.
That's like way above what I really truly believed would happen. So yeah. So now 2017 came along, and or 2016 came along, and I'm like, I don't think I can keep racing like this. I don't really have the funds to do it. So I was paying Dan for the car, but it was slow paying. Thankfully, he was pretty cool about it. But yeah, it was steadily going into, I'm done doing this. This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So
now the one story I had heard about you was that, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have had this too, is the NASCAR betting on NASCAR in order to, because you did that in order to pay for the first one, right?
Well, I didn't do it in order to pay for anything other than I just knew it paid.
Sure.
And
because I want to bring it up because there's so many, there's myself including, there's so many ways that people end up finding themselves, financially able to go racing, or like the things that everyone has done in order to, if it's like having to donate at BioLife so you can, accrue some extra cash. Or
God gave you 2 kidneys for a reason, so you can buy tires. You know what I'm saying?
I haven't checked what one of those costs, but
so 2016, I did race 2016 real sporadically, and as that year, so 2015, they went live with DraftKings in NASCAR, like mid-season. I want to say it was like Coca-Cola 600 times.
Was it actually under the name DraftKings?
It was DraftKings, yes. That was the first one I recall. Maybe there was other stuff out there I hadn't seen, but DraftKings was established enough that, not knowing anything about sports betting, I was like, I can give them $100, and I'm a NASCAR fan. I should know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And the first year I had made a couple $1,000, so. And my wife thought my wife is not going to go for gambling, right? She just was like, what are you doing,
Yeah.
You went to school, so you didn't have to gamble, right? Well, I didn't care. So just proving her wrong was enough for me now. Now I just want to see if I can. I actually just like doing it. It's just fun to be right. And
you're making up money off something you kind of know.
So I made just a couple thousand. It wasn't anything big, but I was only putting in a couple $100 here and there. Really small stuff. Then Daytona came in 2016. And I had put all of that into that one weekend and turned 2,000 into 6,000 approximately. And the numbers are, I'm rounding off of memory at this point. So, all right, cool. Now I got a bankroll. So then now I got 2,000 into the next one. Well, Atlanta happens, And I could go into details about all these races. I will tell you more detail about the races I was gambling on than the ones I was racing in. Matt Kenseth is leading the 2016 race at Atlanta, race number 2 of the year. I was all in on Matt Kenseth. He is killing it. And nobody had him. And the game is, how can you find guys that are fast that nobody saw coming on a given weekend, right? So Atlanta, Kevin Harvick, everybody knows Kevin's going to be good. But Kenseth wasn't on the list, but he was fast. Everything's going great. Well, he pits and gets penalty. And I was actually at the race, by the way, for this one because I had family in Atlanta. So I'm at the race, and he pits and gets penalty. Has to come back around. I'm like, oh, my God, you got to be kidding me. Well, then he gets mad at NASCAR, doesn't come in, goes like 4 laps down because they stopped scoring him, and just killed it, right? So I had lost like half of what I had made. I was so freaking mad. I will never be as mad as I was there until later in the year. And so whatever. I did it one more time for the 3rd race in Vegas, and we won the whole thing. It was like $20,000.
No kidding.
So, yeah, that was Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. Like I said, I remember every lap of that race, watching the lineup results and where I was at in the money. And Logano got by Kyle Busch for second, like 5 to go, and that's what put me over the top. And like I just remember my wife being like, "You're such an idiot. I cannot believe you're going to win this money," you know, in a loving way. And so we win it, and then that bankrolled it where I kept doing the same thing. Then it was Bristol. Well, I think it was Matt DiBenedetto had a car, one of those backmarker cars, but he was in the top 10 speed-wise in practice, so I put a bunch of money on him. Well, guess what? He ran like 5th or 8th or something that day. He ran really good. Now I got even more, right?
And was it all based off because, like, the odds of him doing well?
So it's not odds. What they do if you play that game.
And I know nothing about sports betting. Like, I hear the word parlay, and I'm like, I'm out.
I'm leaving out a lot of backstory in it, but they would give everybody a value in terms of a salary. So they'd give you, say, you got $50,000 to play with. If you pick, who was that? Kyle Busch. That's like $12,000 right there. You got to pick 5 guys. If you
so you're kind of like assembling a team.
You're assembling a team, yeah. You can't just pick good guys. You have to find guys in the back that are fast. And there's different ways, fastest laps, where you start versus where you finish, obviously finishing position overall, and then laps led. So you got to weigh all these things. And I was starting to make simulations of the races where I said, I think based on history, Kyle Busch is going to lead on average 50 laps of this race. And I would give him a point total, and then we would take that and turn it into like an optimal roster. And, it's funny, I mentioned Seth earlier because I was talking to him quite a bit through this. And he helped me make some Excel stuff, and so did my wife, reluctantly.
Okay, I was going to ask if you're doing this on spreadsheets.
No, it was all on spreadsheets. So we would actually simulate what I felt like as from practice data and historical data from the track, what I thought these guys were going to finish in, points-wise, like the way it was scored in the game. And I would make lineups, so I'd always run the optimal lineups. And then what I would do, I got to the point where I was looking at lineups where, are these guys, what is everybody else thinking? Are they picking, Martin Truex Jr. was one that got me some money in there. Because he was in that Furniture Row car, and that car hadn't done a lot, but it had speed that year.
Okay.
So betting some of my lineups and including him on the lineups I was building, well, he would be 5% owned, 10% owned. That means you're only 1 in every 10 lineups you're competing against out of 20,000 lineups. It has him. So if I put all my lineups and half of them have him, you'd call that leverage on the field. So that was kind of how that year went, is finding those high leverage guys that people didn't understand. And the other thing I should say is Talladega, right? Daytona. Everybody's picking Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's starting 3rd. And then his odds of getting a wreck are high because it's Talladega. Anybody can wreck.
Yeah, and bump drafts. Yeah.
So I'm picking, it was weird, but I'm picking like David Reagan from the back and just guys that shouldn't really ever be up front. But after they pile up 20 cars, now they're running 20th from 40th.
Interesting.
So that's going to score the most points in a race. And if they have one more wreck, now they're running 10th. And if you didn't have those back markers that nobody knew, you weren't going to win. But you had to look at the historical data and run simulations to see what the outcome was likely to be. And it became obvious to a handful of us in the gambling world there, if you pick the last 10 guys in most of your lineups, you're probably going to be in the money. And then eventually everybody caught on, and this got much harder after that first year. But yeah.
Like, now, when you say like running simulations, like what are you actually talking about?
So I would calculate the points that were scored in the 2015 version of that race.
Okay.
What position, so you had to make a 5-man lineup at that time.
Okay.
What was the optimal 5-man lineup you could have done there? Like, who scored the
so
top points? So you would look at that and use that to make judgments on the next ones, but you had to plug in all the data to do it, and then you could see who would have theoretically scored the most points. And then you notice, oh, God, at Talladega, it's all back marker guys because everybody wrecks. So they're in the back of the pack. They get to slow down before the crash. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I imagine if you wouldn't have started, you probably wouldn't have noticed that as easily if you wouldn't have actually, put the data into something and now you can start to actually see it, God, that's interesting.
You needed but it all had to happen the way it did. You needed to have confidence that you weren't a total idiot, right? Because at first I wasn't sure if I was as lucky or good,
Right.
And so as all that had happened, it helped me finish paying off that race car. And then I used that to basically the car I've got now I ended up buying. I sold that one and got the car I've got now. And had that not happened, I don't think I would have had enough just cash in hand to keep racing. And who knows what would have happened after that.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned I had one race where I still, the highlight came up just the other day on Facebook. Jimmy Johnson missed a shift at a Dover race in 2016, the first race of the year at Dover. And when that happened, I was up $38,000. So that happens, right? He misses a shift. I end up losing money on the race. I mean, just spitting mad. Jimmy Johnson. I win every championship for 10 years there. Johnson misses a shift once in his career and takes out half the field. And so if you don't believe me, go look up 2016 restart wreck at Dover. I just want you people to know I looked at 38,000 for like 40 minutes under red flag. And then when they went back to yellow, I watched it just go, nothing. Later that day, I was racing Tyler Schley's car at Slinger and ended up getting put in the wall and stubbed that car. It's still the only stub I've ever had on a race car. So when I do the math on that, that was like a really, really bad financial day. So I feel bad that happened with the Schley team on that one. And then I was also just mad in general. So just not my favorite day in my personal history, I'll say, is that Sunday.
Yeah, I always joke that taking a race car and go to the racetrack is just like gambling because you don't know what's gonna happen.
It is.
But what's it actually like sitting in? You're actually gambling and betting on cars, but then you're just watching it on TV and.
Well, okay, and if you played any of these games or gambled football games,
and I have not.
Okay, good. Don't do it. That's my advice. PSA: don't do this. This is not a good idea.
If you have a gambling addiction, please call 1-800. Yeah, I'm gonna have to now put it in the notes now.
So, football games do not completely change the stats you build up in a football game. You can't lose 100 yards, but you can dominate an entire race. From a DraftKings perspective, crash and not even be one of the best lineups out there after leading the entire race, or in the best lineup. So you can erase all progress. My point with this is 5 to go is still a long ways from over. And I think when that wreck had happened, they were running 400 lap races at Dover, and there was like 30, 40 to go when that happened. Like, we're just killing it. Like, all we need is a normal, boring NASCAR finish.
Yes.
At Dover. It's happened 100 times in the past. Just finish it out. And no, of course, we pile it up, and Jimmy Johnson missed a shift.
Was it just stressful watching that?
I was actually listening on the radio, and I could see it on my phone what was going on financially. Money you don't have, chickens you didn't have hatched yet, and but I just bring that up because this is one of those days where I just laugh about looking back on it. Like, man, we had her by the tail there, and Jimmy Johnson of all people screwed up. And then just to have that big wreck. I mean, we hit the wall so hard that day. Jordan DeVoy tells a story. He was like 2 cars back, and he said, "I watched you hit the wall, pick the back tires up, spin around in the air, and land at Slinger." He's like, "That was wild." And thank God for Hans devices. It didn't hurt or anything, but boy, my ego was hurt that night. That's for sure. I had never stubbed a race car in my life. And
can't wait for this day to be over.
Yeah, let's just go to bed and forget this ever happened. Yeah. So yeah, and then at that point, I had started racing more and more again. So you can't prepare at that point for an actual gambling on NASCAR day and be racing at the same time. So I was racing more again and kind of started phasing out even that year. And then people caught up. I hadn't really thought about the fact that people were going to catch up with the strategy, and they did, and that's where it kind of ended. But there was a little while there. I was like ranked unofficially as the highest NASCAR gambler in the world, and I was writing articles for some random obscure DraftKings website.
No kidding. Just
like goofy stuff you're involved in, but so that was that story. I mean, that was way more detail than I've probably gotten into with anybody else.
Now, the one last thing on that, when Royce Rossier came on and recorded an episode, he mentioned like something like the Russians like hacked it? Did that actually happen?
Oh, so that's so this is like you win some and lose some in life, right?
Okay.
I feel like I've been so lucky. I try not to complain. I've had a terrible year this year racing. We haven't even gotten to that yet, but it's like, what are you going to do, man? Life's good. You can't have it all. But we won that money, and I think by the time it was done, it was somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 I had made in like a 6-month span, right? Pure profit. That's after all the losses are accounted for. That's how much more money I had in my accounts at the end of that. And from DraftKings, racing did a good job knocking that down. So later on, I started getting into the crypto back when it wasn't really that big. It was a big deal compared to when it really started, but it was early enough, and now it's $100,000, right?
Yeah.
For Bitcoin, but
also
at the time,
stayed away from that.
I was getting into it when it was like stay away from. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, stay away from that. Never mind. We're not going there.
It seems like some of the I don't know, kind of like the meme coin things are kind of phasing out.
Never do that. Oh my God. You know what? I am not giving any financial advice. If you want to do it, good luck. And if you make a bunch of money, sponsor me. But I got in. I want to say we were around $12,000 at Bitcoin, right? And so I'd gotten in on that and some of the smaller alternate coins that are out there.
Okay.
People are like, what the hell is he talking about? Anyway, I rode that up to like 20, 30 grand, and I had only invested like $5,000. It was up to like $50,000, $60,000 again. Like, I'm like, oh, I did it again. Now we're buying that Fury chassis, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think Fury was around at that time, but so one day, this would have been, actually it was more recent than I remember. This was like 2021 February. I went to go just check on it, and it was like not there. I was like, what the hell? Where did that go? And I'm like, did I log in? What did I do? Figured out it got hacked. It got hacked, and just one of the dual factor authentication that people use now on so many things on their phone financially. Didn't have it at the time. Probably should have. Naive, got into it, not really understanding it. I just knew, this would be kind of fun, right? I did some trading.
Who's going to come after Ryan Farrell in East Troy?
That's what I'm saying. You just didn't know. But honestly, people, that is, it can happen. It can happen. Now, I didn't lose a lot of money that it was.
Actually invested.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't invested in even close. I probably lost $5,000, right? In theory, out of pocket. But that was not fun. That was not a fun few days processing that. So since you brought it up, I joked like they started the Ukraine war, and I'm like, oh, I paid for that explosion. So
pay for something, right?
That or it was Korean. You know, they always say the Russians and the Koreans are the ones, but anyway, So I look back on that now, like, well, all right, I had a good run there, and sometimes you have bad luck too. So so there, you win some and lose some, but
well. Jeez, well, that's
weird.
That's enough talking about the bad moments.
Yeah, racing podcast. It's a weird thing to talk about, but at the end of the day, all this stuff, I think deep down, you only get into it as a way to help pay for race cars because it's just that kind of.
If you didn't have the ambition to need like, some money,
I don't want to take food off the table. Okay, I also would like to have nice things, and my wife is not a huge race fan, right? Was not involved in this in any way, shape, or form, but is very patient and enjoys it, but like a normal person perspective, which is good for me because I should not be left uncontrolled, right? But I say that just because I needed to find more money to pay for this. I couldn't just do this and take a whole income off the table to get race cars and stuff. So I joked that deep down, the DraftKings thing, the crypto thing, just looking for passive income, sponsors, all that, just to try to keep this thing alive. Because at that point, we had enough people helping us that we wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's gotten so expensive that you just,
Yeah, I don't think the cost of anything has decreased in the last decade.
No. And so just trying to keep up, and I guess they call it passive income or whatever. But I think deep down, it's always because of racing.
So then... you get your own super late model then, right?
Yep. Okay. So backtracking. Yeah. So now 2018.
Yeah, where were we?
I had It's a lot. We covered a lot of ground and jumped back and forth. 2018. I got a car from Eddie Holmes. I had him build the chassis, and I took all the parts off that other car I had and put it on there. So it wasn't an entirely new car, but the chassis was, and that leads into a lot of other things here because in 2018. We started off, our first race with that car was actually at Plover, at the opener at Plover. And we led like 40 laps with it right out of the gate, and we ended up having a drive shaft issue. Put us out, but I'm like, wow, that was a decent opening. And we ran great all year. everywhere we went, it seemed like we were a top 5 car, and we ended up winning the Harvest up here. We won the Challenge Series that year at the Dells. We won the last race and the championship, and then we turned around 2 weeks later and won the Harvest at Plover. Well, by that point, some people had started to notice, and I was at Club Forest, and you might wonder, well, how does a guy from Big Bend get to be sponsored by Adams Towing in Plover? Well, you go to the bar in Club Forest and you meet Royce Rossier and you start talking and having a great time. He's like, hey, you're doing pretty good. I don't know who the hell you are, though.
Yeah.
And so we hit it off, and so he helped me out with some tires at the next Tundra race, and so that was cool, and just been friends with the guy ever since. Well, him and his gang of associates start chipping in and bugging people. Well, we're at Wausau we had just won the opener at the Alive for 5 race in 2000. And we go to Wausau a week later, and I run into Rick Adams there. I didn't know who he was, and we're sitting at the bar. It was Rex Rossier, Royce, and Rick, and just shooting a breeze with him, just telling him about what's going on. And I didn't, just the guy, just being friendly. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's like, well, I'll sponsor you for Kaukauna. And then he sponsors us for Kaukauna. And okay, cool. And then he wanted to come back in 2021. That he just kept coming back and got to be good friends. And it just, one thing led to another there. And now we're up here. I'm up here camping with this same group of people I've been now friends with for almost 10 years. Yeah. So, Royce goes back to 2018, and then Rick I met in 2020. So, okay. Just another one of those luck in racing, but always, I would just, if you're a younger racer, make sure you go out of your way to talk to everybody. Yeah. You do never know. I didn't even think of it at the time, but you never know who you're meeting or who could be the next guy that helps you keep racing when you need it. Yeah, exactly. And you might get a friend or two out of it too. Right. So. Yeah. I know the friendships you accrue along the way. It's almost more valuable than the times you've spent on the track. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I get that better now than I ever have. Every year you get older, you appreciate these people more and more. Right. Exactly. For what they bring outside of racing, just good times. Right now, my kids are standing probably in a foot of muck on the Wisconsin River, catching frogs with some of their friends' kids and frogs and catfish. Yeah, catfish who knows what's in that river? Yeah, the whole thing. But I mean, as a parent, you couldn't be any happier. It's like that's the greatest right there. Yeah, kids are just running around having the time of their life, unstructured, unsupervised, and say a prayer for the frogs, I guess. Yeah, so they caught a lot of them today. So yeah, and actually, so you talking about the Dells and like winning the Harvest. Yeah, you've won a lot of really big races at the Dells because end of 2024 the National Short Track Championship that came back to the Dells now since Rockford is no longer, and then you won that race, right? Yeah, that was really the end of a string of really good finishes there. We had run the Alive for 5 race, like the Badger State race, we ran 3rd. Then we went to the Tour race, set fast time, finished 4th. And then we ended up winning that one, all in like a 5-week span there. And we've run good at the Dells quite a bit, but it was nice to get back to victory lane there in that race, and it paid good. But really what mattered was that Eagle Trophy was just awesome. We got the picture with the rose wreath, the whole thing. And that's good. They're still doing that. That's cool. Oh, I had forgotten about it. All of a sudden they brought it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, And Rockford was tough, man. That was I was always a little reluctant to go there at times because. As I say, did you run? I've run it a few times. Okay. Yeah. I actually won my first Mid-Am win was actually at Rockford for the Spring Classic. That was. I still that trophy that's in probably my top 5 all-time races because we passed everybody on the bottom clean, and it was just like nobody could do that. We stumbled in. I don't think I knew what I was doing. But we just stumbled into a setup that was unbelievable. Sure. And ended up racing with Bill Preetzel and Lyle Nowak and James at the finish there and ended up winning that. So I'd had some success at Rockford. I always felt like I ran okay there. Just, having one car, you gotta be careful about the races you run because if I tear it up, I'm out. And when things happen, you miss time because of it. Have you only had the one car? Yeah. Well, up until the last couple weeks, actually. So we can get into that later, but some things changed there. But it's been the same car until basically now, and it's like gambling. You got to take risks that make sense. Does it make sense going to this race? Completely understand that. Yeah. And there were some years I went down there and ran it because I I always felt like Rockford was probably the coolest track to just drive around. Like, you head down the back stretch straight at the opening, which is maybe not the greatest safety design ever, but then you just pile in there and run the top. I mean, it just feels like you're flying around a racetrack. The sensation of speed at Rockford was unbelievable, but I had never had, every time I'd run the short track championships, something would break. I'd get caught in a wreck. It was just always something.
Yeah.
And like, God, I'm never going to have a shot to win this race. And then we ended up winning at the Dells, and the Dearies were there, and it was just awesome to
cool.
get into that
cool
kind of, it might have been the Dells version of it, but it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's awesome that they they keep that name, that that event going, even though it's transitioned to the Dells. That's
so
cool.
what's funny about that now? They weren't going to do it as a super late race this year, and now they've rescheduled the Alive for 5 race that weekend again. So it's almost like it's back for another year. So okay. I don't know if we're gonna call it that or not, or how we're gonna do that. But yeah, they weren't actually planning on running the super late there, so may have unofficially won the last one. I don't know. We'll see what time brings. So
okay,
but
yeah, no. So and talking about the one car thing, so I mean, because you've ran over the years, ran a lot. You've done the full Midwest tour, right? Or at least a lot of the events, right?
I've never run more than. I don't think I've ever run more than 6 out of the 10-ish races.
Okay.
I've always missed a few. It's hard to get out to Iowa. It's hard to get out to Grundy. Always lands on a bad weekend for me. Norway this year, so it's been tough to run that whole schedule. It's hard to commit. The Dells, with that being the same track for all 5 races, it's pretty easy to run that all year. But as far as running an entire season, just that one challenge series and then the Alive for 5s, that's the only series I've ever actually finished all year. We'll just bounce around and do what we can, and
okay.
So,
yeah. So and running that with one car, that gets, like you said, that gets to be tough. Whether it's the rules
exactly.
or just the like the rules point of it, or like you said, kind of, hey, where do I want to race so I can not get cleaned out and keep running the rest of the year.
It's all risk reward. So I'd always said Plover was the lowest risk track you could go to in terms of escapability of a wreck, right?
Yeah,
There's
I
a lot of room.
Guys
it's not the fastest track out there, so guys are sliding around. When something happens, when something goes wrong, you have room to escape or time to see it coming.
Yeah.
Where I would say Rockford was probably the far other end of that, where if you're barreling into 3 and they pile up in the middle of 3 and 4, you're in it. You're done. That's all there is to it. And they did that quite a bit.
Yeah.
In the later years. So Rockford was always on the high end of that, and Plover was always on the bottom. So just kind of how I weigh where I'm going a lot of the time.
No, exactly. And it's good to, it's interesting. And I ask about that because, and I like your thought on that, because I never really heard anyone else describe it like that. But that's how I've only had one car and always had one car, and that's how I've looked at a lot of things. Like, all right, well, I'd like to do this race, and it's like, well, probability of not coming out of there is, and it's like, and people take those chances, and you got to take those chances once in a while. I had this spree of going back to Kaukauna and came out of there not so great a couple times, but you definitely have to. Yeah, where do I want to go in so I can
even the choices you make on a racetrack are. Do you really need to be on that guy's bumper on a restart, or can you leave every now and then? You get burned where a guy maybe fills a hole, right? Because you left too big of a gap, but it saved a lot of noses for me. Being a little bit careful when you're your first, second, third row. Okay, you're right up there, but by the time you're back to the 4th, 5th, 6th row, do you really got to be on that guy's bumper?
Yeah.
Where you're going down the straightaway, you can't see in front of the guy you have in front of you. If something happens, where are you going to go? You're right into the back of that guy's car. And so some people have pointed out that I've done a good job of not tearing stuff up. And there's a lot of little, just how you're side by side down the straightaway on a restart, or maybe lap 2 after a restart. And you're in the bottom lane. I like to just peek out a little bit and watch what's happening 4 or 5 rows up. It doesn't give you a perfect run into the next corner, but it might give you a shot to slow down when something happens, right?
Yeah.
And just having that instinct that being in racing this long, you see things coming sometimes, and sometimes you can't do anything about it. But in the grand scheme, you can save yourself a lot of money if you're on a budget by just thinking about how I can get out of this at all times. And then once you get spread out, now we're racing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you lose a spot when you're running 13th and there's 60 to go, it
doesn't matter.
If you were going to win, I think you're going to get there anyhow. But it's hard to remember that, to be patient like that, especially for the young guys. But the amount of battles for like 13th, 14th, 15th, where guys aren't given an inch, and it's like, it all pays the same, right?
Yeah.
You got to get to like 8th before things start changing.
Right.
But
and even then, you're not breaking even.
Logic
anyway.
isn't always a part of this. So, but when I talk about risk reward, even the decisions of where I put my car on a racetrack come back to that. Is like, I'm in the danger. Denny Hamlin's talked about this, where you'll see him back out of the pack at Daytona or whatever, and he's like, this just feels way too chaotic. You can't do that, but you can always try to just, I don't need to be on that guy's bumper here. What's the difference, right? Race hard when it's for that win or a top 5 or when you're up there, but use a little judgment about how hard this is going to be to get to the next race if you tear the front end off this now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great way to
have
look
some
at.
kids. It'll really change your perspective on time, right? When I'm in the shop all week, it's not a good feeling. I don't feel good about that.
It's great to hear someone else verbalize this
no.
from just be what I think in my head too.
No, if you're missing a sporting event or something because you got to be in the shop to get a car done, that's not good. And I'll do what you got to do. When you've got that car, I always feel like when I have a car that's good enough to run in the top 3, I can win that race. I can take that and go with it.
Yep.
But when it's not there, nobody's going to remember if you finished 6th or 7th here. Just be smart about it, right?
Yeah.
A guy caught you and wiggled you. He ran me down from a straight, whatever. Just let the guy go. Let's live to race another day here. But usually when people say stuff like this, they go and do the opposite next time they race. So I'll try not to be that guy. We'll see how time goes here. But
I said no, for all
you got to survive, man.
Yeah.
Kids, time, money, all of that, it adds up. So
yeah, for all the and you've already said that for all any young kid out there listening, I hope you've had your pen and pencil out the last 10, 15 minutes listening to Ryan's advice. So no, it's all right and it's all true. So at what point did your now how old's your oldest kid? When did you start having kids and then the racing?
That was 2015.
Okay.
Ann and I had a late 2015. Ingrid was born right after Oktoberfest weekend. So
okay.
2015 was 10 years ago now. That's pretty odd. That's pretty odd to think about. And then Jack came along 2019. He was born during the Daytona 500. Okay. So Daytona's always been a big thing for me. At least it was before NASCAR kind of ruined it, but we don't need to talk about that. Used to really be a race, and now I don't know what it is. It's more gambling than anything I've ever done if you win that race now. But
I just have to ask, is his birthday on the 20th at all?
It's on the 19th.
Okay.
It was in 2019 on the 17th. I'm sorry. Yeah. I flip 17 and 19 all the time. Why is that your birthday?
My birthday's the 20th. I was born on the Daytona 500 in 94.
Were you during the race?
No,
on the day?
On the day. I was
No
born at
kidding?
like 10 something at night or whatever.
Racing.
But
there you go.
Yeah.
So the doctor came in there and was like, "Oh, we could shut this down now." I'm like, "Whoa, stop! This is awesome. Just put it on mute. I'm just gonna let that be on in the background so I can say he was born during Daytona." But my first race as a kid, the first race I ever got to go to was the '98 Daytona 500.
Really?
The year Earnhardt won, and so I was a huge fan of Dale Earnhardt. So the Daytona 500 was a big deal then, and they've kind of ruined it, in my opinion, through the years with just too much of a 3-wide crash fest, random, whatever. But to have a kid that was born on it, I just thought that was a cool story. So the nurse was like, "What a psycho!" Yeah. And so my daughter
was born right as soon as a Packer game was done. That was kind of cool.
You remember this stuff though?
Yeah.
So that Ross Chastain wall riding thing, my third kid was born that afternoon.
Okay.
So that's like whenever I see the highlight of him, I'm not going to lift here. I'm just going to pound the wall and go around the corner, which is a move that does work in the simulator. I can attest to it. I think of that, right? So you think of like when I see the highlights of Denny Hamlin winning that Daytona 500. Oh, that was the day my kid was born, right? So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Funny how that goes, but. So father of 3 now, and I don't know. It's just wild how fast it goes, but it is fun, man. It really is.
Yeah, yeah. So your racing career was really, really getting going, and then you're also having kids at the same time.
Yeah. I mean that we did not plan on having our first, but by the time we got to our second, it was all in the plans, and things were good there.
Cool.
And we had already bought a house at that point, so now I look back on that. At the time, you're paranoid, like, oh my God, am I ready for this?
Yeah. Right.
And then you look back and man, I almost wish we'd have had kids earlier at this point because you have so much fun with them. But
right.
But yeah, we debate a fourth every now and then. We'll see. So
God
we're getting up
bless
there,
you.
man. We're getting up there. So you guys aren't going for 3, I take it?
And I don't plan on it. It's not in the plans. We got a second dog this spring. And,
Oh, that's big. That's a big commitment.
A little over a year ago, we got a second dog, and that was that was the joke. Was like, I chose a second dog over a third kid. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I've been reluctant. We're planning on moving, and hopefully next year. And I said no dogs until we do that, because if we're going racing, I don't want to leave the dog with somebody else all the time. It's not like I'm going
one
on
extra
vacation.
thing to do. Yeah.
It's not like I'm going on vacation one time. This is every other weekend, approximately all summer long and into the fall. How many dog sitters you got before you burn them all up? And they're like, just take your dog with you or put them in a shelter or something. You know?
Yeah.
So once we move, there'll be some family nearby, I think, where we're going to move, and we'll have a plan for that. But
cool.
But I am a dog person, so hopefully soon.
Yeah.
So
now you're mentioning a second car. Is this breaking news out of the Ryan Farrell camp?
So I mentioned a few times Adam Berge, and one of my best friends throughout, because of racing, but just doesn't matter what we're doing, and watching sports or just fishing or whatever. And so his kids right now, they wanted to get out of it this summer because they're trying to build a business, too much going on.
Sure.
And he gave me a really, really good deal on a car, and I wasn't really looking to expand, but they knowing me and what I was doing, they had kind of built the car similar to mine, so ended up picking that car up. I don't know, we were going to run it at Jefferson just to get it out, and we had this camping weekend on the books with the Adams and the Associates crew, so we weren't moving this, so I'm going to miss this race. But it's okay, whatever, man.
Yeah.
You got to do stuff with your kids. You do this racing thing all summer. You got to draw a line somewhere, and I don't know what the plan is for it. There's some things I got to change just for comfort in the car. You joke about the first race car you drive. You don't care about any of this stuff. Now I like the mirror in a certain spot. If the seat rest isn't right, how lean back is the seat. I've been accused of having a lazy boy seat, and so I don't know how that feels. You have to sit in my car and see if you agree with it or not. But I like being laid back and down low and barely see over the dash sort of thing. So so we got some work to do with that car. The thinking I have, I've noticed the last few years, we go to the Dells to start the year. Then it's Madison. Then it's Jefferson. Then it's back to the Dells. Then it's probably a slinger race. Then it's back to the Dells. And I am changing my car, the front geometry on it all the time. You change the cambers, you change the whatever. Yeah. Now you got to do the bump steer. And now I got to put it right back to where it was. So I have wanted to get a second car just so I can maybe dedicate one. This is going to be the Dells car or any track that's really close to the Dells. So I'm not overhauling this stuff all the time. You go to Slinger, I end up changing trailing arms, stuff like that. And now you go back to the Dells, the car was awesome, and now you're off a little bit and you find out, I forgot one thing in between all these changes that maybe I missed. Or sometimes it's just not the same. I don't know why, it's just not the same. Yep. Just different day, whatever. But at least one less variable. That's what we're thinking, and I'm sure all best laid plans will get blown up soon enough. So now there is a white number 80 out there, just under wraps for now.
Okay.
So
coming to a track near you at some point,
coming to a track or an after party near you somewhere. So
perfect.
Yeah, that should hopefully help out. Probably more next year than anything. Once we get things sorted out and have a schedule for next year, I think we'll.
How many races in total do you usually shoot for in a year? Where and then where have you all been this year so far?
So this year, let me just start this conversation by saying this year sucked. This has been an awful year. We've had a weird oil leak issue that I think everybody knows about, and so what it ended up being is earlier in the season we had a problem at Madison where a piece of valve flaked off, and it was a really odd. It didn't look burnt. It didn't look anything. It just a piece just broke off, like it was delaminated material, like there was an internal crack in it.
Interesting.
And whatever it is, what it is. Well, I think what happened was a piece of that got across to a different cylinder and dinged the cylinder a little bit. And that cylinder, as it was wearing, was actually allowing more and more cylinder blow by, if you will, to get down into the crankcase. So we'd have this car that could qualify well, like we were at that last Slinger race, qualified 5th, right? A lot of cars there, cars running great. 8, 10, 12 laps into a run, all of a sudden it starts leaking oil. Well, what it was doing, we thought it was a bad seal. We thought it was maybe a hose. We went down all the obvious lines, but with work and everything else, I don't have time to go testing during the week, and I've been traveling more. So you go to the track. Okay, it wasn't the hose. It wasn't the crack in the oil pan we found. It wasn't this. And all of a sudden, we're like running out. What is this? And it ended up being cylinder blow by pressurizing a crankcase. it's a sealed bottom end with a dry sump. You don't expect to have leaks like that. So
Yeah, wow.
if anybody out there has any dry sump issues, contact me. I think I've read every forum possible in the last month or two. But that really kind of, I feel bad because it just makes it makes you look bad. It makes your engine builder look bad.
Yeah.
But I think we got that sorted out going into the next race for us is going to be the tour race at the Dells, the Jim Sauter. Had a good run last year, hoping to get back on track there this year. So, but if anybody has any problems, please reach out to me with your engine issues. I'd love to hear them and maybe help somebody else out. So.
Yeah. No, it is, man. That is one of the most frustrating things. I went to a race, I think I wasted like 2 races at Marshfield one time. I think we qualified. I think I set fast time at Marshfield for a Tundra race and then went into a race and started having a miss that we battled for like 2 races and had to drop out of it. And then here it was one little wire that just broke off a ground and it would sit and keep tapping and making it cut out and hard as heck to find. But found it the next morning after he ruined the second race.
It is so painful. You work so hard to get to the track, right? You give up a few of your weeknights all night long doing this. Then you give up your Saturday. You go to the track. And I think Steve Letarte once said is like, man, when you win, it's got to be really good because it's got to carry you through probably another round of real big frustrations because that's racing in a nutshell.
Yeah.
For the average man, right? And when you have that 2 or 3 races in a row, like what happened to you or me, and you get nothing good out of it other than more work. Like when you take an engine out to try to figure out where this leak is coming from, then you put it in and it goes and it's still there after you change the seals and did everything. Oh my God, you just want to throw things as hard as you can at things that will break. So,
yeah.
So I feel your pain on it, man. It's so
that's much worse though. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it ended up being like 3 or 4 races there where we just were just ready to go nuts. You know, you think, oh, we'll replace the seal. We got this. Then it's not that. Then it's the oil pan. It's not that. Then, we found a small leak in the lines. I bet you it's getting worse when it gets hot. Oh, I'm here to tell you it didn't. It was something else the entire time.
Yeah, I think it would. In our issue, the farthest extent we ended up going to is, well, you pull all the fuel lines out of it. Like, I think we're seeing a little water in the jet or something, you know. And so you pull the fuel cell out, you clean out the fuel cell, and it's like,
a lot of work.
Yes,
we got her now, guys.
Yep.
No, you don't.
Pay the pit passes and entry for the next one. Nope.
One of the only good things I'll say, not that it's good, but I got a chance to do the broadcast for the tour race at Madison.
I seen that. I was gonna wonder how you came to be there. Were you entered in that race and something happened, so you went up top?
We would have run that race. Okay. I always try to run. You only get to run Madison once or twice a year, so I always and for me being in the Milwaukee area, it's not that far. It's only an hour drive or so. Mm-hmm. So I always like to go there. It's actually a fun track too. I think Madison's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But Dean texted me. He said, "Hey, well, if you're not racing, we're looking for a guy to help out in the booth." And so got to do that and gained a new appreciation for how much memory Jim and Dean and whoever else down the line, all the Matt Pannier, Kurt Keene, all these guys that have done broadcasts that we see around, the memory they have for all the divisions. Because I thought I knew everybody at the racetrack. And all of a sudden there's a truck backwards and I'm like, oh, what is that guy's name? And Dean's right on it, right? I'm like, oh, okay, wow. That was pretty smooth. I did not realize how much they were memorizing without having to look at note sheets all the time.
Yeah, good thing you weren't up there by yourself, right?
No. I got a lot of compliments for it, but it was easy to talk about the race, right? And I think that added something to the broadcast, being able to talk about the strategy or what a guy's thinking about in the car. Something that maybe Jim or Dean don't get to do, but I think they'll keep doing that. Have guys in there when they need them that have raced real recently, and
that's cool.
Whatnot. But I'll do it again when I get a chance. He was bugging me about Grundy. I just couldn't get down there. But yeah, you might see it again soon. So
nice, that's cool. So throughout all the races and everything you've done so far, what's been your favorite? Obviously, you've had a lot of success at the Dells, Golden Sands. What's your favorite track to go to?
I'm pretty consistent when I say. And I haven't raced at Golden Sands since 2021, and it's just a scheduling thing.
Okay.
Their races are always on. Their bigger races are on Labor Day, Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to say, hey, let's race all summer long, and then we're going to take that one day off during the week that you also have, and we're going to go race that day too. We always do that Salute the Troops race at Jefferson because I love it. It's only 40 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
But then you got Slingers, got a fireworks show, so you want to run that one, and then. You look at that third race, and every year we think about it, and we just never get to go to Plover. Anyway.
Oh, so you've had years where you've packed 3 in that weekend?
No, I've never done it,
okay.
but I've always dreamed of doing it. We just, at some point, like you don't want to wear out a good thing. And the guys that are helping me they've all got jobs and families and lives and hobbies outside of this, and yet they keep coming and they give up most of the summer to do this. And you just kind of hit a point where you're like, okay, now I got to draw the line. And sometimes it usually ends up being that Monday race that we could have run, you know. But so back to the reason I mentioned Golden Sands. It's probably the track I see guys make more mistakes on in terms of being impatient, or they think, you know, I'm loose off, I got to fix that. And they just make setup mistakes, and they make driving mistakes. They're impatient. And they maybe time things wrong, or they go to the high side too quick, or you just see guys making driving mistakes or whatever throughout the race.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
I felt like I could take a 10th place car and get a top 5 out of it easier at Plover than any other track out there. So that's probably why that's my favorite. And I like the idea of being half throttle down the straightaways or 3/4 throttle.
You enjoy that, huh?
I think it's awesome, man. I could roast these things, but I'm not going to do it.
Did you like State Park Speedway?
I did. I didn't run. I've had some good runs there. Just at the end there, I didn't get to go there enough to really, for whatever reason, Plover, we just always got to figure it out whenever we show up there.
Sure.
I joke with Devoy. I'm like, hey, quit stealing my wins here, you know, because he's been running good there.
Right.
But I always love State Park too, man. Just like hanging on, just coming out of turn 2 there. I love that. So those low grip tracks, I'll miss Wausau for sure. The Dells is always a favorite. I just really always have been comfortable at the Dells. There's probably little things I'm doing I don't know I'm doing there that help, because other tracks I don't feel like we run as well, but for whatever reason, the Dells against the same competition, we always run well. Slinger is as fun as racing can be. We were talking about that, just burying it in there and feeling looking up at the next corner is so cool, I think.
Yeah.
So, and it's my home track, I'd say. Geographically, Slinger's been that's where I learned to race, and at times I struggled there, and it's like, man, why am I struggling at the track I learned to race at? But it's been better lately, so when we're not having any mechanical issues, we joke that that's like our worst luck track. If something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong when we go to Slinger. But it hasn't deterred me. We keep going back when we can, when the schedule allows. So
you're probably not alone, and if there's something that's going to go wrong in with the car in my race schedule this year, it's going to happen at Slinger. It probably happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it's probably hard on cars when you think about it.
Yeah, right.
It's throwing it around like that, but maybe there's a connection there. So
now, if there's something bucket list race item, whether it's an event or to run like the full circuit of something, what's on a bucket list of yours?
I mean, I would like to be able to run the full tour at some point, just to do it. But with the way life is now, it's probably gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah.
I don't even. This is hard enough in Wisconsin that I don't even really dream outside of the races here, or have a lot of guys will mention the Snowball Derby. I always hear Majeski mention Oxford, which is cool. That seems like a really cool track. I'd love to go run.
Yeah, I haven't paid a lot of attention to that race, except the last couple of years. Probably when he started kind of talking about that, and some more kind of Midwestern guys started venturing off.
Yeah, right. But as far there's that Bigley race. It'd be fun to go down there and do that. But there's so much in Wisconsin to conquer from a super late model perspective that I never really even get outside of here. It's just I haven't won a race at Madison. I'd like to win a race at Madison for whatever reason. I've come this close to winning a super late feature at Slinger a few times and just can't seem to get it done. And lately, just can't seem to finish there. So that's on the list, right? That Berlin deal seems pretty cool. So getting over there would be fun.
Yeah.
And I haven't run at Elko since a mid-am car in 2012. We'll see what the schedule allows. We missed a bunch of races here lately. Maybe we can pile that one in there if things work out. So I'd like to get back to Elko, but I know that's not very pie in the sky, right? But there's so much to do, and yet for me, super late model racing here in the Midwest, that I don't even think about everything else.
No, I completely agree with your outlook on that too, because I've never ran the Slinger Nationals. I've never ran the Ganrud 250, and it's like, man, those are marquee races. I'd love to say I joined in on that, and just haven't yet. So it's like, there's so much up here, and
you don't want to do it just to do it either. Right. You want to try to be competitive, and at times, if I don't run a race like that, sometimes it's life or just things happening. But also, you want to be on your game when you go to that, and it's hard, man. Like anytime you're racing against the guys we're racing with, they are. It's probably harder to do this now than I would imagine any other time on a budget, right? Because it used to be where guys were somewhat conservative about how they did this stuff, but now guys are testing and they're paying guys to help them, and this is harder to compete than I would imagine it's ever been for a guy that doesn't have a really good connection in it. So
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about that. I was actually thinking about that not that long ago on just like the amount of paid people that I feel like are at a racetrack at any given time, just whether it's like, so it makes you really appreciate the people you have around you. And it's like, hey, yeah, I'll pay for my own. They pay for their own pit passes and they come along just because they're your buddy or they want to help you, or even if you cover their pit pass, but they're still taking the time away from their family and coming out there. And it's like, now you're in the realm of like, hey, I can spot for you if you give me $150 or whatever. And it's like, okay, it's like I feel like
I got mirrors.
10, 15 years ago you didn't have that, and I'm sure there was that, but yeah, I feel like I've really noticed the influx of that.
I would go down the list of people that help me out that don't do stuff like that, or where they just want to be there to help out. And man, I'd be here all day, but the whole team that helps me out is like that. I was having a conversation this morning, if I'm doing the math right, with Rory Melbinger at a campfire. And one of those guys I like talking to, I always look forward to seeing him up here for this camping trip we've done now. This is a third year.
Oh, that's cool.
And, you just kind of lament that sometimes it's almost worse being good at racing, like where you can do it, right? I can compete with any. There's nobody I'm afraid of on unequal equipment, right? I can do this. But the problem is if you don't have the resources, it almost is the worst case scenario. You'd be better off just sucking and knowing your limitations, right? Because when you know you can do it, it just drives you to just want to keep going. And this next one's going to be the one where we get there. And it really is like a drug in that regard, especially when you've had some success.
Yeah.
And you think you can do it. That is such a trap. And I've seen a lot of guys get caught in that or where you can't keep going. And it's always like, well, we need to go test more, right? We need to do this or that. And I just refuse to do it, sometimes at my own detriment. And you take the small wins, right? We'll go to Fest, right? Usually we're never there before Thursday night. And I mean Thursday night to watch, right? Mm-hmm. And then we'll show up and try to make the trickle race without any practicing. Guys have been there since Sunday. I mean, they were there practicing the week before. Then they're there Wednesday. Then they're there Thursday. And when you make the race and some of them guys don't, you're kind of like, that's actually a pretty good accomplishment, right? But nobody really notices that. It's just in your own mind, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did a good job. But at the end of the day, did you finish top 3? No. Well, then nobody's going to remember. So, but the struggle, you enjoy the pain, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's one, and I've said that before too to people. Is like I've always tried to be realistic about the things, and it's like, hey, I could only make this happen with what I've got, and I'm just gonna have to be okay with that. And
turns out this game is a lot bigger than just driving the car.
It is.
There's a lot more that goes on off the track that has to go right, and it's tough. So,
yeah. No, that is no doubt. Now, trying to think, there was something else I had that I was going to ask, but so you're up here in the central Wisconsin area for a camping trip, and I know you want to get back and do a fish fry. I know. So we got a spot picked out.
So, actually, we usually do it right there at the campground. We get our own, we'll fry it up, and so I think that's.
So you're really hoping the kids catch something.
Well, I don't know if I would. It's probably going to be a catfish. Not that there's anything wrong with eating a catfish. I would probably not eat that one out of that river, right here. But
I think it's okay to eat it out of there, but you're only supposed to have so much. Otherwise, the mercury content.
They put a limit. Okay, first off, I don't care what the limit is with walleye. I'm going to eat everything I catch, right? If it's a walleye, it's walleye. But when they have to put a limit on what you can eat, that's a little scary. So I'll maybe pass on that. But we'll buy some fish and cook it up there on site and be talking about the same things we're talking about now until probably 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So
no, I remember the thing I was going to ask you now. I'm pretty positive it was you. I remember seeing at one point like pictures of your car like on Facebook, and there would be like, I don't know if it was Yoda.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen that around in a while. What was it?
So
Are you just a big Star Wars fan?
I am actually not that big of a Star Wars fan.
Okay.
I gave up on. They got so many spinoffs, and
so you don't in the month of May you don't look forward to going around and saying May the 4th be with you?
No, not that much. I that got overblown, but I think a lot of the kids really enjoyed it, so we were leaning into it. So I joke now, there was that Spaceballs preview. They're making another Spaceballs, which is actually a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And they were joking that there's now prequels to sequels and sequels to prequels in the Star Wars thing, and nobody knows what the hell's going on anymore.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. People say, hey, you should watch Star Wars. And I'm like, well, where do you start?
I don't know. But my kids liked it, and so we had that Baby Yoda, right? Well, the problem with him was all of a sudden we started having bad luck when they were bringing him around. So then we basically were ready to throw him into the fire.
Okay.
By about the 4th or 5th race after that started. But we were adding it to driver cards because the kids that were coming around started picking up on it. And I really enjoy joking with the kids that come down for autograph sessions.
Yeah.
Like, if I had a goal for anybody that comes to a race, and whether they're rooting for me or not, I want them to be as excited as I was to go to that race when I was watching NASCAR as a kid back in the day, right? To have that much excitement for the race to happen, or the guys that you like rooting for and being that into it. I want, if people are into it like that, everything's healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so when they come down into my pit area after the race, I try to make sure they're having fun. I try to find something to relate to. And give them something to remember. Hey, well, maybe I know this guy, but if he doesn't have a good day, I'm going to root for the 80 car, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's one kid had sharks on his T-shirt, right? And I remember saying, hey, that's mislabeled. That's not the right kind of shark. So I guess I am kind of a nerd, right? But the kid was like, you're right. I've been telling people this shirt is mislabeled, and we just hit it off after that. There's one of our crew guys right now.
So you actually started to interrupt, but you actually said that knowing it was mislabeled?
Yeah. I just being a little bit of a nerd. I am an engineer, so there's some nerd in there. And so, like, you get a kid in a cowboy shirt, and it's like, hey, man, everything okay at home? And then his dad would just start laughing. And you relate to the parents a little bit. But you just try to build connections. So we got a kid that helps us now. He's 16 going into his junior year. And I met him as he was like a 8-year-old kid that I hit it off with. And turns out he lived close to home, and now he's crewing for me, right? And it's
that's awesome.
Things like that. But you just try to make sure you have time for everybody. And at some point, you're not going to get to do this anymore. You're going to have to hang it up, and nobody's going to be there to ask for an autograph, right? It's not that big of a deal. I'll joke with kids like, don't be selling this on eBay now, right? But they don't get it, but the parents laugh, and it's just, you're trying to build connections with people and make sure they have fun. And sometimes that's missing, where, especially with the younger guys, they don't know how to talk to people yet. And I think that might be something that's underrated in terms of the sport. There's a touch of wrestling in this thing where you identify with personalities, and there's a bad guy or a good guy or whatever. And just giving people something to remember you for, or remember the race, take home with them, whatever. It's a big deal, and it adds up. So
that is exactly right. And I think, and I love meeting those people that probably one of the favorite stories I ever hear is from people is like, man, I remember being like a little kid, and I got to like go for a ride in your grandpa's race car when they did stock car rides. And it's like, that was just a huge memory for that person. They remembered it forever. They shared it with their kid who now they have at the races. And it's like to keep adding on to that and keep, the next generation of, people and fans and kids. That is so important.
Well, I can remember your grandpa came up to me. I knew him. He didn't know who I was, but I had done something decent. And he was like, "Oh yeah, looking good," and this and that. I'm like, Tom, he just acted like he knew me. I was like, that was amazing, And so I don't know. That's how you try to keep that going, because I want people to keep coming back. I like that people are invested or are you running this race? And it's like, well, we'll find out, but it's just cool you asked,
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And actually, probably one of the last questions I have, probably the most important, and I've been really enjoying asking, like I asked Royce when he was on, because he had been, he's such a big fan. Obviously, he's a supporter of yours. He was the president of CWRA. So to get the perspective, I like asking this question of like, if there's an improvement you could make to the way racing is done, whether it's, a rules thing, whether it's a serious thing, if you had the ability to influence a change or make an improvement or something you'd like to see done at some point, no matter if it's an easy change or a hard change, what comes to your mind that would, maybe make your own life easier? Or
did you ever come to the racetrack and think, like, God, I wonder how practice went? They've been here for 8 hours. I can't wait to hear how practice went. Does a race fan give a crap about how much we practice?
Nope.
What are we doing?
Talking about just how early you get to the racetrack in comparison to when you actually go
I have
racing.
a reputation for showing up late, and I just there are days I wish I could get there earlier. But
hey, don't worry, Dick Trickle did too.
Well, he did it better than I do it. On occasion, it is fun when you get fast time and you miss first practice. It's like, oh yeah, that's fun. See, what are you guys doing? But it's not. It doesn't necessarily help your day go well. But I guess at some point I like to have a little bit of time Saturday morning with my family.
Yeah.
Right. If you just race that hardcore where I got to leave my house at 9 a.m. to get to a racetrack that doesn't start racing until 7 o'clock, okay. This is like big chunks of my week getting taken up to do this. And if I could change anything, I would make it so that we are not wasting so much time at the racetrack. These races, I don't mean to crap on everybody's parade. They pay more than 10 grand a few times a year. They're usually about 5 grand, sometimes a little less. And if it's a weekly show, it's even less than that. Although the weekly shows, like Slinger's doing it pretty well, I think, in a lot of regards. But
yeah, I just saw that purse advertised, which I love that they advertise their purse.
It's a
fast
line. Show, and the pits don't open until later in the afternoon.
Yeah, they do a great job.
The dirt stands are packed. They don't start doing anything there until like 5 o'clock. And nobody cares. Nobody cares that Junior got 50 laps of practice at the asphalt race. People, we live in a time of simulators. If you need laps, get on iRacing, whatever. If I could change anything, I would make it so that we are cutting down on practice time and tech time. Do we really need to line up our cars to go through tech just like we did at the last race to measure the same crap that doesn't matter? Because, look, I get aero matters, right? We got to have some rules. Do we need to go through tech this much? Can we just throw the templates on the cars and call it a day? You go to a sprint car race. They're racing for a lot more money than we are, and they have way less tech. Why are we doing this dog and pony show so much? It makes it so that people don't even want to be involved in it. Hey, you want to race cars, cool, but you got to give up your entire weekend. You got to leave first thing in the morning, and you're not going to get home till late the next morning or early the next morning. That ruins your weekend. Who's going to want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest thing I would change is why are we doing this stuff? We're not racing for $1 million. Why do we act like it's bigger than it is?
Yeah.
People want to see us race super late models with the coolest freaking stock car out there, in my opinion.
Yep.
But we could make this thing a little bit more manageable from a time perspective. Maybe we wouldn't need an army of crew guys to push the car in and out of tech on down the line. So, that's an easy comment to make. It's not an easy comment to execute. So I don't mean to be on a soapbox with that. But guys, we could do this and the fans wouldn't know the difference. We could still run. We run the Dixieland 250 in one day. Everybody gets 2 practices, and they go racing for 250 laps. Why do we have Slinger Nationals as a 2-day show? Why is this a 2-day show? Why is that why do we have all this open practice time? Why do we get there this early? Nobody would know the difference. We could just show up and race. The track is going to be the same as it was last week. It's asphalt. So
yeah. No, I once again completely agree with that because I don't like being late to anything, and I don't like being rushed. So pit gates open up at 9. It's like, well, I gotta be there at 8 because I want to have a decent spot in line. Or sometimes you go there and people are already getting in the pits, and it's like, oh man, well, I could have, I needed to be there because I need to get in the pits, and
yep,
yeah, and it's like, well, I agree. If I didn't have to, if I could see my kids wake up in the morning before I left, it'd be nice too.
You're only doing that because everybody else is doing it.
Exactly,
right?
It's 100%.
Like we only practice because everybody else is practicing. I got bad news for everybody. When you're practicing, like everybody thinks they're the smartest guy in the pits. You're not. There's only one guy that's going to win the race. It's usually time adjusted. No, it's just you're not going to actually. I think some guys, if you're a mid-pack guy, right? And I am on and off mid-pack guy. Sometimes I'm really good. Sometimes I'm struggling. You're not usually going to use more practice time to catch up. Those guys that are really good are going to get further away from you. So having less practice would probably work in favor for 90% of the field to give them a shot to win a race in a given year. But I think people don't see it that way. I think there's a lot of people that think they're the smartest guy in the pits, and they just need a little bit more test time or practice time. And I would question that theory because the more practice we get, the faster a lot of these guys go at the top. So,
yeah, no, it's true.
It would add a little bit more randomness if we only had one practice to make sure your car's running good and then we're going. And we didn't have to show up till 2 o'clock for a race that starts at 7 instead of 10. I think I don't want to even pick on any particular track, but there is no reason we can't show up later in the afternoon to run these races. Nobody's going to know the difference, and the fans are going to be there all the same. So that's my one thing I could change.
No, I appreciate you sharing it, and like I said, I like to ask because it's getting different people, different backgrounds, and sharing what they think. And all too often, in myself included, I've spent years like, man, I wish this would change. I wish this would change, and no one ever really talks about it. Or
no.
And so I like to get that out there. So I appreciate you.
I would even question the theory that we have tracks make the schedule the tracks got to make, but we drive the cars, we build the cars. Why are we not getting together and taking care of this on our own?
Yeah.
Instead, what we do is we call Jerry Albee, and one guy will complain to him, and then the next guy calls him with a different opinion, and he's got to make a judgment call on that. It's really probably not even fair to the track owners. They're just doing what they think.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to be in his spot listening to it either.
But why don't I don't know. And some of this is biased because I've been drinking around a campfire for a couple days now, and you hear how it was with the CWRA or however, and guys would get together and the drivers would advise the tracks on what was going on. There's a lot of political things behind the background of actually executing that, but I do feel it's weird that we do it the way we do it now. We're all in this together, and only one guy's going to win, so it's tough. Everybody's competitive. So.
Well, a little later today, after your background, the campfire, and you guys got some really good ideas and opinions, let me know. I'll bring the mics over. And
hold on, I got this all wrong. We're gonna fix this. And I don't want to ever be like that guy that ran the racetrack, because it is so hard to do this. It's hard to race. It's hard to run the track. It's probably hard to do anything involved in racing. But I do think if we can move that schedule along so guys can enjoy their Saturday morning and get her done, that would be good.
Yeah,
I'd change that. So
yeah, we all got a tough job, no matter what part of the job we're on, or part of the event we're on. So Yeah, man. Anything else that's interesting to know about you that you'd want to share?
No, not really. I think all the fun stuff's been talked about.
Yeah,
and it's just cool to be a part of the sport. So there, I spent 5 minutes complaining, but just being involved in this whole thing is pretty fortunate. I am really lucky. I mentioned I've had a bad year, but man, I'm just lucky to be even able to have a bad year, because think of how many people really get to do this. You could say it about NASCAR. 40 guys get to do it. How many guys can say they live life and got to drive a competitive race car for a chunk of time, man? That's living in the land of the free, doing this sport. Life's pretty damn good. Hard to complain about anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's definitely a very, very fortunate thing for any of us that are able to do it and have done it. So yeah, that's for darn sure.
Yep.
Darn sure. Well, man, it's I know we've raced against each other and talked a little bit in the pits, but it's been awesome to get to learn a little bit more about you.
Absolutely.
You take the time. I'm glad it worked out that you were able to come up here, and I've been excited for this.
Oh yeah, so. I know I'm terrible with scheduling right now. Everybody jokes I'm the hardest guy to get a hold of, and it's just brain scatter with work and life and kids and everything we've talked about.
Yeah. Well, you say you
It's
show up a little late to
there.
the races, and it's all right.
Yeah, there you go. So yep. So
perfect. Well, thanks, Ryan. It was great having you on, and we'll see you around, and good luck the rest of the race season. Thank you for listening in to Speed and Grease. If you're a returning listener, I appreciate you tuning into another episode. And if it was your first time tuning into the show, I hope you enjoyed it and want to keep coming back for more. And if you haven't already, make sure you head on over to Facebook, Instagram, like and follow us on one of those platforms wherever you prefer, even on X as well. And if you watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, make sure you head on over to YouTube, subscribe to our channel there to stay up to date on everything. And also, if you want, give us a rating and review over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one.